how does someone who attends Mass every Sunday and receives the sacraments become more knowledge about their faith? I feel as if I was asked specific questions regarding the Catholic Church, I would fail miserably. Amen. You probably would, because most of us would. I've been telling you how to do it. I'm going to give you a shortcut, though. Say the rosary every day. Have your Bible and the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Read the Catechism and the Bible every day. Make a holy hour. If you can't go to church to make the holy hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament, which is the best way, but if you can't, do it at home, a little corner of your room. You know, my grandmother used to have a corner of the living room, and she had made a little altar, and she had the Infant of Prague. Remember, Infant of Prague with the costumes you change? That was big back then, you know, and she had the liturgical, you know, green during ordinary time and purple during Lent, and she'd change them every day, and the baby Jesus, you know? That was big in those days, and so, it still is someplace. And a statue of the Blessed Mother, and she would go there early in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning, she'd kneel down, and she'd pray the rosary. She had her little prayer cards, a little prayer book, an hour every day, and then it was done. She said her whole day would go better. She said she had the strength from that. Frequently, she went to daily Mass. So my grandma, Angelina, and my Aunt Philomena, and my Aunt Mary, the pious women. The three of them, every morning, 6:30, come out of the house, rain, sleet, snow, wind, they didn't care. Trudge off. That wasn't far. 3-4 blocks to the parish church, go to Mass, then Aunt Mary'd cook breakfast for the priest. Grandma clean the rectory. They go home, have their breakfast, do whatever they had to do all day. But they started that way. How do you've already got the first stage. You want to become better. You want to know your faith better. Now we have a great gift called the Catechism of the Catholic Church. One of the greatest gifts God has given in recent years to his church. When it came out, I knew it would be enormously important. I studied it from the first draft. I was preparing to be ordained a deacon, and I was at a monastery in Massachusetts making my pre-diaconate retreat. And there was a priest there who happened to be the director of religious education for Cardinal O'Connor in New York at the time. And he had the first draft of the Catechism. And he gave me a copy of it with a red pencil, and he said, I'd like you to go through this week and make notes on what's important, what you think is strong, what you think is weak, and so forth. So I did that, and that was how I first saw the Catechism, from the first draft. And I saw every succeeding draft from the beginning. And when it came out at first in French, and then Spanish, and then finally English, I used it in my ministry. And then I finally, in 1996, did my series called The Teaching of Jesus Christ. 48 one-hour lectures which synthesizes the entire catechism. That's the series that's been on EWTN for the last 10 years, nonstop. Once in a while, they preempt it, like if the Pope dies. 10 years. I'm going to conclude with a little story for you about this. When the Holy Father passed away, John Paul II, EWTN asked me to do a little tribute to him, which I filmed in my chapel at home. When we finished filming, we knew he was going to die. You know, remember how he was sick a long time? And I finished the filming and turned the TV on, and they announced that he had passed away immediately, like within 5 minutes. I knew I wanted to go over to Rome for the funeral because, after all, he had ordained me. And, you know, so many of us, well, he's the only pope many of us really ever knew. I mean, there were other popes in my lifetime, but he's the only one I really knew. And so we were personally touched by his passing, of course. So I checked, we looked how I would get over there, and I found the airlines were charging $6,500 for a ticket to Rome. And that's way more than normal. And I said, well, I don't know if I can do that. And then a woman called the office and said to my goddaughter, Tamara, she said, I want to send you and Father for the Pope's funeral. I'll send you the money. And she said, well, we've already checked. It's way too expensive. And she said, I didn't ask you how much it costs. I said, I'm sending you. She was a, strong woman with a lot of money. And so, pretty tough combination to deal. You can't resist that. So, Tamara couldn't go. She's too busy in the office. Somebody has to work, So, my superior and I went over. I went over for the funeral. I got there a couple days ahead of time. Some of you saw it. The EWTN broadcast from the roof of the North American College. And one night with Raymond Arroyo and Father John Newhouse, we broadcast, and it was an amazing thing. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I've experienced a lot of things in my life, but this was really something. They had scaffolding built up on top of the roof of the North American College, and we were looking down on the dome of St. Peter. There were 1 million people in the streets in front of us. The sun was just setting. I think we broadcast 6:30 Rome time in the evening. The sun was set. It was blood red over the dome of St. Peter's. An incredible peace radiated from the streets. In the hills around Rome, there were Patriot missile batteries because of the threat of terrorism. Every major world leader was there. Attack helicopters were flying wide tactical circles in the background. So you had missiles, helicopters, 1 million people, the sun setting. It was an incredible, surreal experience. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. I don't ever expect to. Anyone who had doubts whether or not John Paul is a saint, if you'd have been there, you know very well he's a saint. It was unbelievable. It was like when Mother passed away. God made the whole world give due reverence to one of his saints. It's like even the liberal pagan news media people had to. They had to. It's like God's hand came down on them and, maneuvered them around. They had to. Do you remember what it was like? The whole world was focused. I mean, the Pope had enormous effect during his lifetime, but in his death, even more. Incredible. A young priest was assigned to me as my guide. He had studied in Rome. He was from Washington State. He took me around, drove me in the car. He knew Rome, spoke fluent Italian. And he got me, and we drove as far as we could that night, and then we walked up the side streets, and we went in, I think it's called the St. Anne's Gate on the side of St. Peter's Basilica. And, there was security, all layers of security. Plainclothes police, uniformed police, the Italian country police, the Carabinieri, and then you had the Swiss guards, the plainclothes Swiss guards, and then finally the uniformed Swiss guards inside the basilica. So we got through that. He had a pass. Nobody was getting in past certain level of the security. You couldn't get through. They wouldn't let you in that close. But we got in because he had a pass. He was a member of the clergy of Rome. He's in one of the parishes. We got in. We got up probably to within, I want to say 60 feet, 70 feet. The Holy Father's body was lying in state right in front of the altar in St. Peter. And I could see very well. And so we stood there about 30, 40 minutes praying. And I said my goodbyes to the Pope who had ordained me. And I was very thankful that I was there, that I had the chance to be there. I prayed for that good woman who made it possible for me to be there. And we were finished. It looks like they were bringing some of the sister missionaries of charity had some people in wheelchairs, and they were bringing them up. They had a special line, and they allowed them to go closer. But that was it. You know, normal, ordinary people like me couldn't, even the Cardinals couldn't get any closer. They had their place on the other side, 50 feet or so away. And it looked like that was that. We paid our respects, and we were just about to leave, and 2 Swiss guards marched up to me. The full medieval regalia with the halyards, and they marched up to me right in front of me, and they stood at attention and saluted. And then they got one on either side of me, and they led me right through the crowd up to the Holy Father's body. They stood at attention, one on either side of me. There was a prior, a kneeler there. I knelt down, and I prayed there this far from John Paul, with the Swiss guards standing at attention next to me. 20 minutes or so I prayed. I got up. The Swiss guards led me back through the crowd, saluted, and left. Left me wondering what had just happened. You know, I don't really know anybody in Rome. You know, as they say in Las Vegas, or I have no juice. No power with influential people. Nobody knows me over there. Although I have to say, I was stopped 6 times at the Rome airport, from the gate where I got off my plane to the front door. 6 different times people recognized me, and they weren't all Americans. Some of them were Italian. And well, anyway, I'm standing there, and an Italian man, one of the ushers at St. Peter, dressed in a tuxedo, he smiled at me and he said in English, "I know who you are." And I said, "You do?" He said, "We have television in Italy." Yeah. Yeah, my family watches you on television. He said, "That was pretty good what the German Cardinals did for you." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, that was good what the German Cardinals just did for you. You know, they sent the Swiss guard. You know, I heard them talking. I was on the other side, and that's Fr.J.Corapi over there. He does good work with the Catechism of the Catholic Church. The German Cardinals, one was Austrian, but it was Cardinal Shernborne, who was the primary editor of the Catechism. You know, he's the one who put it all together in the beginning, and the other one's now the Pope." And so, as a kindness, as an honor, and I didn't know what had happened. If I hadn't run into that man, I'd have never known. The Cardinals dispatched the Swiss guards to allow me to have that privilege, to say goodbye to the Holy Father that way. That catechism series, my catechism series called The Teaching of Jesus Christ, is the only thing of its kind in the entire world, in the entire Catholic Church. It is the only thing of its kind. There is no other series with that kind of breadth and scope and depth on tape, on audio and video, okay, on DVDs, CDs. It's 48 hours, 50 hours video, because EWTN added their artistic content. The teaching is all mine, but EWTN put some artistic music and art and so forth. 48 hours on CD. It's the whole catechism. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, condensed into 48 hours of teaching. It's used in over 100 countries all over the world. And to this day, after 10 years, it's the only thing of its kind. Why? I don't know. It's a very humbling thing. But sometimes God will surprise you. And as unlikely a candidate as you are, as little, as miserable, as sinful, unlikely a candidate as you are, God chooses the weak and makes them strong in bearing witness to him. Sometimes it is when we are weak, as St. Paul says, that we are strong. And so it can happen that even a pope comes to know what you've done and who you are. And God gives you a little pat on the head, because sometimes you think, have I accomplished anything? Has it helped anybody? And so I came home from Rome very much rejoicing and consoled. But that series on the Catechism, I'll leave you with that thought. Learn your faith. Whether you have a little knowledge or a lot of knowledge, whether you're in kindergarten, whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, you can always learn your faith better. And to learn your faith is to learn about God. The first commandment is to love the Lord your God with your whole heart, mind, and strength. The second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself, out of love for God. When you learn your faith, you're learning about God. You're coming to know God. When you study the Catechism, when you study the Bible, you're studying Jesus himself. You come to know the beloved. And then you enter more deeply through that knowledge into that love, which helps you then to serve him with your whole heart, mind, and strength. So know him, then love him, then you'll serve him, and then as old Sister Mildred used to say, then you'll be happy with him in heaven for all eternity.